18 people, 3 months, 1 trip. Knowles, do you have what it takes to scale the dreaded Devil's Tower? Do you know what it feels like to thrive off sub-zero temperatures while living in a snow cave? Can you honestly say that you have pushed your body to the limit and come out wanting more? Have you ever faced your own mortality and laughed in the face of it? But above anything else, have you led a fulfilling life? Today's guest has met the face of doom and lived to tell you about it in our program today. The Humanities Mass Communications Department at Norwalk Community College presents The New Directors, the show that introduces the world to television's future writers, directors, and producers. And now join our host, the Scottish sensation, Laura Dicker, to meet the next new director.
Thank you for joining us today for a very special edition of The New Directors. All of the people involved with this program are students in the TV production course and are currently directing, switching, controlling audio, operating the camera, and acting as talent. The guest you are about to meet is a student who, when not on camera, is behind the scenes, working hard to bring this program to you with as few mistakes as possible. Each student wrote and directed 3 different productions during the semester. This program will give today's guest the chance to talk about his progress through the course, the productions he completed, and the life experiences that make him so unique. Our very special guest today is an adventurous risk-taker who spent 3 months living in the wilderness during the fall of 2007. He also has a deep appreciation for cinema and the work involved in creating a major motion picture. We would like you to meet today's guest, Pete Farnsworth.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show, Pete. It's exciting to have such an interesting person on our show today. So let's begin with some of the history of your wilderness trip. Could you share with us a little bit of what it was like for you to live in the wilderness for 3 months?
Well, yes, that was quite an introduction, but I'd be happy to help or to discuss that. Our goal for the first section of our trip was to summit our nation's first monument, known as Devil's Tower. We started out learning to perfect our rock climbing skills in South Dakota. When we arrived at Devil's Tower in Wyoming, I have to admit it was a pretty daunting sight. One of the most interesting parts of the area was the field in front of the structure, which was home to thousands of prairie dogs, like this one right here. Learning to rappel was pretty fun as well. But after surviving a 40-foot drop about halfway through the climb, my partner and I felt like gods among men as we stood on top of what felt like the world. The next stop on our trip was to southern Utah, where we traveled the deserted lands on canoe and kayak. The scenery here really took my breath away as we passed through miles of canyons that were hundreds of feet tall. And after a day's travel down the river, we would have some time to hang out and relax, do some fishing. But after reaching our destination along the Green River, we set out on foot through the canyon lands in search of ancient Anasazi ruins. Staying on our pre-planned itinerary was pretty difficult when each day included a desperate search for water in the middle of the desert, the temperatures reaching the low 100s, and our bags containing close to 100 pounds of food and supplies. On the other hand, there were some pretty breathtaking vistas to keep our spirits up. After finishing our desert backpacking section, we took a day of sightseeing before heading back to Wyoming for the wintertime. We traveled on skis, and we learned to build some pretty impressive snow structures. Like that one right there, that's called a quigloo. After setting up our camp spots every few days, we scaled nearby peaks and would teleski back down to our campground. Overall, I think that the trip really taught me a lot about my strengths, and it inspired me to work hard at whatever life throws at me.
That sounds really incredible. You must have really gained an appreciation for the outdoors.
Yeah, I really did there.
Well, now we know a little bit about you. Could you tell us why you decided to take the TV production course this semester?
Sure. Well, I've always had an interest in film production ever since about 8th grade. I started making home movies with my friends, and I really just fell in love with it. I had a couple internships a few summers ago, one of which was for an editing suite in New York City, and the other was on an independent film, and I just had the most amazing summer ever. So when I had a conversation with Laurie Soderlund about what the TV production course was really like, it jumped out at me as being the perfect opportunity. You know, I had experience with Final Cut Pro back at home, and I wanted to see how Avid, the editing system, really compared. And lastly, you know, I really wanted to learn the ins and outs of cameras. I never knew what all the different lenses meant, the ISOs, controlling depth of field. So, you know, that really got my attention and made me sign up, and I really, I'm glad I did, yeah.
Interesting. Sounds like this course was made for you. After finishing the course, what are some useful things you have learned?
Well, I'm really glad that we did learn how to use the camera. I never, you know, understood all the different mechanisms and things, and when we went out to shoot our projects, it really helped to be able to get a sense of what composition meant and how the pictures really are controlled by what's on screen and also what settings you have, because, you know, some things are in focus and some things aren't. But I also learned quite a bit about the Avid editing system and how utterly unintuitive it seems at first. But luckily, Stoney and his little minions helped us all learn how to use the Avid system. And soon enough, I was able to get it down really well and teach some of my fellow students about some of the ins and outs of it. Towards the end of the course, though, we got into more of the TV production, which was very interesting. You know, I learned a lot about the functions of the control room, how to direct a TV show, and soon enough, I was able to tweak all the different stations pretty easily. But most importantly, I'd say, we learned about teamwork and how important it is. I always knew how important teamwork was during a film production on set, but I never knew that it translated so well over to TV. So, you know, without cooperation in the set and the control room, this TV production right now would probably be a mess.
That's so true. I know from experience just how bad things can get without teamwork. Let's look at some of your work now, and maybe you can guide us through each one.
Yes, of course. Well, my first project was my action sequence, so we can take a look at that. The focus of this action sequence was to focus on the angles of your camera from all different perspectives, to make use of composition, although we hadn't learned that much of it so far. And also, we got a little introduction to the editing process. My subject here was just sort of tearing up paper and trying to throw it into a trash can, pretty simple, but it was great to get out and practice with the camera for a while. Next up is my nature sequence. During this nature sequence, the focus was on composition and really getting your scenes to look as pretty as you could. Which meant having full control of the camera. A lot of it was using depth of field and also controlling the exposure. And also, you know, I learned to incorporate music because it was sort of a narrative. But after this, you can see is my orange story, starring our classmate Johanna. This was important because we used a lot of pre-planning, using storyboarding, shot lists, and generally getting the whole story down before going out and shooting anything. And it really helped because it sped up the process a lot. And it also focused on some more detailed editing, as you can see here. Tried to match the action a lot. But the last out of my projects is the Guns and Hoses. The Guns and Hoses project was mainly to focus on your editing skills and to see that you could put in all sorts of effects and work with graphics and use transitions to basically mimic a video that we had seen in class. You can see here that got all the titles and things, and basically it was just to help you learn to use Avid a little bit better.
Wow, that must have taken a lot of effort to get it right. Did you enjoy the process?
Yeah, all of the projects were really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
That's great. Out of all the projects you've completed this semester, which one would you consider to be your best?
Well, I think that my nature project would probably be my best one. You know, I really didn't have a sense of composition at all before this course. and when I went out, I tried to really focus on all the different ways to make a good picture using composition that Stoney had taught us, using simplicity and use of lines and things like that. And also, I got to learn how to control the camera in a bunch of different lighting situations. I took some shots at night, took some shots early in the morning and late afternoon. It was interesting to see how exposure can change so much. But also, I made a sort of a slight narrative with it. I started out with early springtime, which was, you know, sort of dry and dead looking, just coming out of the winter, and then transitioned basically right after this point into more of the pretty springtime that everybody's used to, where all the flowers blooming. And I also had some music which went with it that really helped to improve the mood. And that was sort of a challenge for me because I wasn't very good at picking music before this. But yeah, so that was probably my best project, I think.
I can see why you chose it. It's very good. Now, those are some very beautiful scenes you found. Now you've completed your first TV production course. What would you like to create next?
Well, I had this idea for a campus story which involved a car chase of sort. Nothing extreme, but I actually really wanted to do that, and we didn't get time to finish it, but I'd really like to go out and shoot that one. And also, I'd like to go back to my home videos, ones I made back in 8th grade, and also just family videos, and edit those together. Maybe make a movie for my family, or just, you know, give to my friends. Also, you know, I'd like to collaborate with students from the course, because now that we all know the ins and outs of basically film production, we can go out and shoot things on our own, because I'm sure some people have cameras. And you know, I've also got this summer internship lined up in Middletown, which I'm really excited for. So I'll be working on a film set, and it's going to be amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Today we got to meet an extraordinary filmmaker who shared with us a small taste of what living in the wilderness is like. As a new TV director, he hopes to apply what he has learned at NCC to develop and visually share his stories to the world. He also plans to use the new knowledge from TV1 to help further his career in the film industry. I would like to thank our incredibly talented guest, Pete Farnsworth, thank you, for sharing his insight into the TV1 course and the stories of his daring adventures today. We hope you enjoyed meeting one of the television's brightest and most gifted future directors, and we hope that you will continue to join us each week to join our progress. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
This has been The New Directors with your host, Laura Dicker. Directed by Deborah Randall. I'm your announcer, Lori Lawless. This has been a Norwalk Community College student production.